I have tried to put together like talking points in my head for a video like this for a couple of years now. And I have to apologize because the reason that I haven't ever actually done the video or finished it, I've recorded it several times, is because it almost always, to me, comes off with me sounding like I'm talking down to someone, and that's just not what I'm trying to do, but the words that come out of my mouth just really seem that way. So apologies ahead of time, and if you're someone that really gets your feelings hurt easy, I guess don't watch this video, because I can't figure out how to say it differently in a way that will appeal to everyone. But the problem that I'm discussing here is, how to talk to your healthcare providers and how to advocate for yourself. Other people have done this way better than me, but I've been told before, whenever I speak to someone individually about this, or, on a smaller basis, a smaller group where there's more interaction and everything, that it's very helpful information. But whenever I start recording it, I'm just like, I feel like it doesn't come across as well or as friendly. Because a lot of this is going to be from a healthcare provider's point of view. And I'm trying to encapsulate other healthcare providers' points of view, not necessarily my own, to help you understand what they may be thinking or feeling or whatever whenever they're seeing you. And that can come across as really crappy. So anyway, the reason I chose to do this video also is because we are now at the point where we get hundreds of messages a week from people who are not our patients, from all over the world seeking help because of many things. We are much more public with our support of the trans community, and we have made ourselves so accessible in the past that it's just made us more easy to contact and get an answer from. But the problem with this is that overall, and this is part of what it may come across as being a butt, but it's not as helpful as what most people think to write to me. Let's say, for instance, if someone writes and says, hey, I'm seeing this provider and they have me doing this, whatever. They have me on injections and this, whatever their issue is, but they already have another provider. That's one of the key things here. They have a provider. Whether that provider is experienced or doesn't know what they're doing or whatever, doesn't matter. They have a healthcare provider. And so they write to me and they tell me their issue, and then I tell them my opinion of the issue in a broad sense, because of course I can't give direct medical advice, because that can only happen between someone that I have an actual patient-provider relationship with. But anyway, so I give them my opinion. What did I just do? It feels okay, right? Like maybe I tell them, oh, your labs look kind of okay, but you could possibly go up a little bit, or maybe they look a little too high. Maybe you might go down a little bit, because that will help mitigate this, that, or the other thing that could come in the future. So I've given them that information, but what did that really do? It made them feel heard, which is of benefit. But other than the whole mental health aspect of it, where they feel like a provider heard them, what did it really do? Nothing. And it could possibly cause a division between themselves and their own provider. Because let's say that their own provider does things differently than me. A lot of people do. And so that provider is unwilling to listen to them when they bring what I said. Oh, well, I talked to this idiot provider on the internet and asked her opinion, and they said XYZ. Well, now your provider, I can tell you, your provider is going to say, so you don't trust me. Okay, got it. And it kind of, it's like a little You're seeking advice from other healthcare providers or other healthcare knowledgeable people out there, and it's going to feel like you're telling them what to do, which in some cases you kind of are, and in some cases I know you kind of have to if it's someone that doesn't know anything that they're doing. In that case, I don't know what to say. But anyway, if you have someone that at least is reasonably knowledgeable about hormone stuff, what they are most likely going to think is that you don't trust them, you're seeking information from someone else and listening to that someone else rather than coming to them first, and it creates just a little bit of an adversarial conflict here, where they're now going to see you in a different light. There's just no easy way to say that. It's like that in every area of healthcare. You could do this with your blood pressure medicine, with your primary care provider, and say, hey, I saw an ER doctor the other day when I went in there because my fingernail fell off, and he said that lisinopril is just a odd choice for me, or whatever. Now they're going to feel a little bit adversarial, most likely, because they feel like their decision is being challenged rather than you just asking about it. So how to communicate these things? It would be better altogether if instead of contacting me, you just contacted the regular provider or went and had an appointment, even better face-to-face, because it's a lot harder to dismiss someone's concerns whenever they're face-to-face with you. But you go to them and you say, hey, I'm on this dose that you have me on, and my labs are like this. So how do you feel about XYZ, or whatever problem it is that you are having or think you're having, or you're looking toward the future and you wonder, is there anything else that we're going to be doing? It is much better to just go to them and ask them, because then they still feel, I know it sounds dumb, but they still feel like they're in control and that you trust them. If you get information from someone else out there, I would not mention it at all. At all. Make it seem like it came just from your little head and that you trusted them and went to them and asked them stuff. If they give you an answer that you don't understand, keep asking for clarification. Don't just be like, okay, and then try and message a clinic like ours to try and figure out what your provider is talking about, because I don't know what they're talking about. And again, what's going to happen is I will try to guess what they mean, but I don't really know what they mean. And I will just be going based off of what my experience is, what I do in my own practice, what my state allows here in the United States legally to be done. And as a nurse practitioner in this state, functioning in this country, like there's so many laws and regulations and things that go around what can be done, what can't be done, and da-da-da-da-da, and all that, like if I have someone from France asking me these questions, I have absolutely no idea what their providers do, don't do, whatever over there. And if I tell you something and get your expectations to mirror what our expectations here are, and they can't even get the type of medicine I'm talking about over there, that really doesn't help. Now, if you're in the US, things will be a little bit similar, but also there are institutional rules and regulations that people have to follow. Some people, their clinic may not allow them to start hormone therapy for X amount of time, or they may require a letter from a therapist, or whatever. Maybe you're on estrogen therapy and you would like to look towards getting on progesterone in the future, but per their institutional policy, they don't start it until 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, or whatever after you started hormone therapy. There's no telling. So if you come to me and you're like, what do you think about progesterone? And I'm like, it's okay for some people, but others have a bad reaction with it. And so we generally advise people to wait for about a year before they start it. And then you're like, okay, cool. So one thing you take away is it's something I can try. It's something that maybe I should try a little bit later, maybe at a year or so. whatever, you take away a few things, and then you go to your provider with this expectation of what I've told you, and you tell them, and they're like, well, we don't even prescribe progesterone. There are some people who don't. Well, that just crushes it. Or they say, well, we prescribe it right off the bat, or whatever, so it really would have been just better to go and ask your regular provider, hey, I'm thinking about progesterone, what do you think? And then if they give you an answer where you're kind of like, well, how does that apply to me? Ask that. How does that apply to me? What do you see ahead for our plans? It needs to be, trans care needs to be more of a partnership between the provider and the patient. And I can tell you, providers don't like being challenged. They don't like, patients that bring them stuff that they are not well educated on and demand an answer right away about that thing. I mean, if you have a sneaking suspicion that what you just asked your provider is outside of their knowledge and practice, but they seem at least open to discussing it, tell them something disarming, like, let's say you asked about progesterone, but they're one of those that they're like, oh, progesterone, what's that about? Just say, well, how about next time I see you, we can talk more about progesterone, and it'll give me some time to kind of think about it, and I want to read up on it and everything. So can we talk about that at the next appointment? And that will give them the opportunity to save face, so to speak, and say, oh yeah, totally. And that way, if they really do mean well for your transition health, that will give them plenty of time to then look up guidelines on progesterone, figure out, are they comfortable doing it, or reach out to, like, they can reach out to our clinic and get, request a healthcare provider consultation with us. Something like that. It gives them a little bit of face saving. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it is what it is. So anyway, one thing that I wanted to mention was, please, dear God, please, if you have questions that you usually forget with your healthcare provider, write them down. Keep a notebook of health questions. Write them down. That way, when you're there, it's a little less intimidating whenever they say, do you have any questions? If you can just pull out a notebook and say, I wrote some down, and read them, rather than just saying them off the top of your head. It feels a little bit more like whenever you're just asking them as opposed to reading them off of a notebook. Another thing or tip or whatever would be, bring a friend, a spouse, significant other, whoever, a support person to help you advocate for yourself, so that you can tell them before you go in, if I look like I'm floundering, please, speak up, say something, ask for clarification or whatever. And also that way that person hears what is told to you as well. And whenever you get out, y'all can discuss it, because I'm here to tell you about 75% of what gets discussed during a medical appointment is usually completely forgotten the second that the patient leaves the building. And I mean, it's usually because it feels like a high stress thing, especially if you're seeing a provider for the first time. And so it can be very stressful, and it's hard to remember things when you're under stress. So write down questions in between appointments in a special dedicated health notebook or an app, a little note app, something that you can make sure that you have with you at the appointment, or bring a supporter with you to help you voice these concerns. You could even tell your supporter to ask the questions that you want to ask if you wanted to. That way, then you literally don't even have to say them if you're concerned about it. But anyways, so from a healthcare provider's perspective, like I said, I haven't minded when I've answered questions from people, but I do see that it could create potential problems for you when you interact with your own healthcare provider, because it's probably going to make them feel a little bit challenged, adversarial, or like you don't trust them. And I want people to know this because, like I said, in the very near future, we are probably not going to respond very much, if at all, to outside questions because of how many we get. There's literally no way that we could get to them all. And in that case, how do you choose who to answer? That feels weird. So that's why we continue to make videos, so that hopefully whenever we see questions that come up time and time again, we can address some of the general concerns of these repeat questions. At any rate, like I said, I'm sorry if some of that came across as, don't ask me any questions because I just ain't going to answer them. That's not really what I meant to come across as. We're here to help, but we're also this big compared to the entire world asking us questions. And I really want to give the power back to the patients in advocating for their own health care and everything. Always ask your provider questions. That is literally their job. It is their job to take care of your health care concerns, you know, and whether that requires going back, and having frequent appointments with them to get your point across that you want to learn and you want to be more involved in your care. I mean, if that's what you got to do, at least at first, then go ahead and do it. And all for the rest, I don't know, hang on out there, y'all. I know it's, at least here in the States, it's fucking crazy with the hate and everything that's been spewing out, legislatures and everything recently. We're still here. We're going to be here, you know. We may kind of go underground a little bit at some point, but we're still going to be here. But anyways, so advocate for yourself. Watch your healthcare provider's feelings. I don't know. I mean, it's just interpersonal relationship stuff is basically what I'm trying to teach here, and I'm not a good teacher of that stuff. But that's what it is, interpersonal relationships and how to manage them well. And so when you're talking to someone in a position of authority, healthcare authority, there are certain ways you can talk to them that may make things go a little smoother in your future interactions. Like I said, sorry if some of that came across butthole-ish, but I really want people to have this information and be able to use it. So this video is long enough. Jesus, God, the first time I tried to do it, it was 30 minutes long, and I just erased all of that, and I've been trying. So y'all stay safe out there. I will see you later. Boop.